Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to the School of Radiance podcast. I'm your host, a humble human on a mission, here to help you both look and feel your best. In today's episode, we are going to discuss embodying radiance, masculine and feminine in balance, the yin and the yang. Very important, especially as we're on this journey of being our best selves, being our version of Superman or Superwoman when it comes to being dialed in with our health and wellness. And also that yin energy of having the peace in our lives. We're going to talk about ways that we can encourage that by living in integrity and how important that is to live a peaceful life while still having some fun and all that stuff, but there's ways to do it. This is going to be a really fun episode. This is for also the 25% of gentlemen tuning in to the School of Radiance podcast. And of course, for the ladies as well, to get the perspectives on how embodying radiance looks and feels and how it plays out in your daily life. And if I can do it and have fun playing with this, so can you. We have a returning guest joining us today. We have Joshua Palassis, from the Canadian military to starting multiple internet-preneur businesses to writing a book, failing a lot, and now helping experts and founders in their personal branding journeys to land more targeted speaking opportunities. Joshua Palassis, aka The Connector, also has a podcast where he talks to his most successful friends about important, fun, and outrageous topics every week. Welcome back to the show, Joshua. How are you today? And of course, what is radiance to you?
Well, thanks for having me back. I'm very good, thank you. Radiance, I think really it's how you show up. Like when you walk in a room, do you shift the energy? Does anybody even notice? I remember really super quick story. I remember years ago, I went to my first conference of this entrepreneur that was, I don't know who the guy was, but I'm like waiting around. People are in their suits and, all dressed up. And then, the host was like, all right, everybody take your seat. So-and-so is coming in the room. I'm like, okay, cool. And I remember feeling an actual shift in the room. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know someone could bring a presence with them like that. And from that day forward, I realized like I want to become someone. I didn't have a word for it at the time, but in this case, let's call it, I want to be radiant.
Magnetism. Now, the question is, what makes us magnetic? And I would beg to question that it's not really about how we look. In fact, I'm my most magnetic version when I don't wear makeup and I have a ball cap on. It's really quite interesting. It's more of the energy that we have, that we embody, how we move. Obviously, how our form looks is a direct representation of how well we care for ourselves and value ourselves and really put the work in. So speaking of the physical form and tying it to faith, because I'm a Christian, Joshua, I know you are too. I know lots of listeners here are as well, and also listeners that have, other faiths and backgrounds. In my experience observing what makes somebody radiant in my many years of serving patients in the medical aesthetics field, I started back in 2011. Certain patients of mine had very specific qualities, and all of those who are radiant had a faith. They had a very personal spiritual practice. So let's get into how you can see this concept of faith having a direct relationship to our physical embodiment of health. I'd love your perspective on this.
Yeah. I mean, the Bible talks about honoring your body as a temple, right? Like the temple of the Lord. And so if I'm commanded to respect and honor my body, and if I'm, commanded to be excellent essentially in my life. And, and I always think food is great, eating is awesome, gluttony is a sin, right? Or there's activity, then there's slothfulness, and slothfulness is a sin again, right? So there's always the extremes of these things. And often gluttony and slothfulness are necessary, or laziness, you could say, are necessary to have your, deteriorating unhealthy, weak body. And so ultimately, this might be extreme, maybe it's controversial, but it's not that I'm judging people who are out of shape, but to me, not that I'm in the best shape of my life, but I'm relatively decent shape, but I actually believe it's rather sinful of me to let myself go. So I actually think of it maybe a little bit more extreme than some people, but I do believe it's a requirement to take care of myself. Because again, this body is a gift, this life is a gift. It's all temporary, so let me, you know, be my best in this temporary life.
That's very, very beautiful. I would add that to be healthy is also to be pure. And that's also a huge component that I've noticed in people who are radiant. They eat whole foods, add the biohacking side of things to purify our environment, reduce inflammation, reduce oxidative stress. And one of the things I love to do when I move my body, when I'm at the gym doing cardio, strength training, calisthenics, I actually recently started incorporating handstands to
I need
keep
to
the
see it right now.
yeah, no, I don't know about that. But to get that mobility happening, and one of the things I actually love to do when I'm moving my body that actually gets me in my body and in the present moment is to sometimes just close my eyes and really just focus on the movement and actually pray. It's like, God, please help me deadlift this 285-pound massive weights, or God, please help me shoulder press these 50-pound dumbbells. And then I do it. And I think that there's actually a relationship between having a connection or faith or like surrender to a higher power to tap into embodying our strength. And this actually has a really cool segue into the nervous system. So for those of you who have been longtime listeners, you've heard me talk about the fight or flight response or the rest and digest response. Fight or flight is your sympathetic nervous system firing up, and your parasympathetic system is that rest and relaxation phase. So even though we're maybe doing activities like running or lifting weights, and we go into our rest periods of say 2 to 3 minutes between sets or between sprints or whatever you're doing between yoga poses, taking the deep breath in, holding for 4 seconds, releasing for 4 seconds, it puts you back into that breath state. And that's kind of like, for me, a little bit of like a prayer for myself, caring for myself, because I like what you said about how when we care for our temple, it really does actually end up showing the world that we value ourselves, and then in return are perceived as being valuable as well. And one of my recommendations for staying pure, something that I do, is a parasite cleanse. Because those parasites are going to mess with your sugar cravings. They're going to deplete your body of micronutrients and vitamins and cofactors and minerals. And when it comes to autoimmune diseases, what some of the information shows is that autoimmune diseases can be triggered by having a lack of certain nutrients, and then your body's cellular machinery and mechanisms kind of go a little bit haywire. So one of my favorite cleanses right now is the Organifi Parasite Cleanse. And you can get this over at Organifi, spelled with an I/Varga. Use promo code Varga and save 20%. It's an easy parasite cleanse. It comes with binders, it comes with magnesium, it comes with liver support, and it's just a cleanse that's really easy to do. So when it comes to faith and health, I would also add the layer of purity. So adding the sauning for recovery. And with what I kind of just mentioned, what's turning? What are you thinking?
Well, first of all, if you use promo code Josh50, you actually get 50% off. I'm kidding. I'm just joking.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. No, I agree. You know, the cleaner your body, often the cleaner your mind. Or I should not cleaner, but the more clarity you have of thought, and you can just kind of go about your day a little bit more light, a little bit more refreshed, and I think that just leads to better decision making, and everything flows, right? And like you said, you also, the way you appear says a lot about you. So if you are in the boardroom, if you are an entrepreneur, if you're in the dating scene, anything, right? I'll be honest, I really hate this idea of just accept me the way I am. No. It's like no. I always say there's places like the church that will say come as you are, or they should at least come as you are, but don't stay as you are. However, if you're trying to impress, if you're trying to perform, again, whether it's dating, business, whatever, you don't get that luxury, right? People do judge based on sight, based on appearance, based on presence. And so I'm not saying you're screwed if you're a little bit overweight, but what I'm saying is it's the effort, it's the discipline, it's all of that that just combines to become very attractive. Like, I don't know how you feel, Rachel, but for me, if I'm looking at a girl, and let's say she's maybe a little bit out of shape physically, but I get to know her a little bit. I hear her story and I see how far she's come, and she's dedicated and she's consistent. It's not that I'm not attracted to a certain body type or whatever, as much as I'm not attracted to a mindset. And so if she has that just absolute killer mindset, she's disciplined, she's going frequently, she's getting more in shape, whatever it might be. I find that really attractive. So the funny thing is, though, the physical often then it's almost like the physical is the fruit of the mindset and the discipline. So I think what a lot of people are very attracted to, men and women, is someone who's going somewhere, someone who's consistent. They're a man or woman of their word. You can see them just following through on the things they say. And then the fruit of that is often a better body, more money, more success. So it all flows. It's very cyclical in that way.
Yeah, with the health component, with the way that we look, there's signals, right? So if someone, say, has elevated inflammation in their body, their diet's not on point, they're not getting enough sleep, they're deficient in certain minerals like magnesium or iron or copper and things like that, their eyes aren't going to be as bright, their skin isn't going to shine as much, and they probably maybe even have less hair, right? That can also be tied to hormonal imbalances, and of course body composition, right? Having that extra kind of like bloat, if you will, a stagnant lymphatic drainage system. There's so many visual cues that we pick up on subconsciously. So I'm a huge fan of doing a parasite cleanse. It's kind of like spring cleaning, but I'll do it about 4 times a year, and I can always tell when I need to do it. Get a little bit more, skin irritation or breakouts or brain fog or sugar cravings, right? We're coming up to the holiday season soon. If you want an easy way to, keep on track with how clean you're eating and not feel the urge to have all these sweet treats, getting those parasites out of the way is huge, right? So again, not having something in our bodies that can contribute to this gluttony type of desire or trigger, right? The sweets are there. It's like, no, I don't need that. I feel sweet enough, right? But if the parasites are talking, they're gonna be like, yeah, feed me all that sugar. And then what they end up doing is they go to the bathroom in you. They release, they excrete things too because they're
That's disgusting.
it's super disgusting. So that's why actually when I talk to somebody and somehow the topic comes up of parasites, whatever, because I study this stuff. I publish research on inflammation and I reference parasitology in my paper on inflammation. And they've never done a parasite cleanse. It's like pretty well guaranteed that they have them. 80% of North Americans have parasites. We get them through shaking hands, exchanging breath, certain foods, walking barefoot. We just pick them up. So what I found that's actually allowed me to be more in tune with myself and stay on track with, my faith in different spiritual practices, and to feel like myself, have that feeling of emotional regulation, is actually after I've done a parasite cleanse. When things kind of start to feel a little bit off, that's when I know I need to do something about it. So for faith and health, I think that the purification component for both, like having a very pure outlook for faith, like why do you have a faith? And you have a great book on this, so I'd love your perspective on that, and being able to like tune in and like hear yourself think and not have these parasites in your central nervous system kind of hijacking your machinery and messing with your emotions and your hormones, and then you end up looking healthier. What are your thoughts on that? Of actually being more pure from a physical perspective to being more clear with what we believe and how we move through the world. Because this specific show is all about embodiment.
Yeah. Well, first of all, from now on, every time I say I feel like Dairy Queen, I'm going to blame it on a parasite. Um, Josh, you always want sweets. It's the
Those
parasites
sugar
talking.
cravings, I'm telling you, that's like a direct sign.
Then I'm going to have to use code, what is it? Code Varga to get 20% off because clearly I'm,
Organifi.com spelled with an I/Varga.
there
Yes.
you go. Because clearly I am one big parasite because I love sweets. Don't clip that. But but yeah, it's interesting. I'm not a scientist. I don't have all the answers behind all this. But if you do deep dives into the the Mosaic law, right? The Levitical law that the Jews were given back in the time of Moses after they fled Egypt. Like there's all these weird ritualistic laws about how to take care of the dead, how to prepare your meat, what not to eat, only eat animals with a split hoof and chew the cud. And you wonder like, what is it? What is this religiosity? And funny enough, if you actually look into, I want to say it was the Black Plague, could have been the bubonic plague, or is that the same thing? Maybe it's the same. I think it was the Black Plague, though, in Europe in what, I don't know, 1500s or something. There was actually a conspiracy that it was all the Jews' fault because a lot of them were fine and people didn't know what was going on. And it's because of bacterial spread, and nobody knew what bacteria was back then. But the Jews were honoring their traditional ceremonial law and how to take care of, meats and animals and dead people and this and that and the other. And they largely were not affected. So it's funny when you just look through history at even some of the purification laws that God gave thousands of years ago and how that led to a certain people group, prospering and being able to survive and thrive over time. So my point kind of going back to this is I think God's law has purity almost in the heart of it. Funny enough, maybe in a different, well, I guess in the exact same kind of form that we're talking about, right? Is how to maintain a pure body. And also, how many times does the Bible talk about fasting, right? Fasting to increase your, excuse me, your spiritual clarity, to be able to commune with God more deeply. I know the disciples even asked Jesus, like, how come you haven't asked us, to fast? And he's like, well, I'm with you. What's the point of fasting? To get closer to me. I'm here. So when I'm gone, fast again, and then you can, be closer to me. And so all of that now we have, I'm not the guy to talk to you about this. Rachel, you're the person more than me for sure. But the benefits of all these almost ancient techniques, whether it be fasting, avoiding certain foods, again, preparing the way we handle ourselves and handle our food and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I just think it's at the core of the entire Christian faith. I'm talking about like 4,000 years ago. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the concept of fasting is in lots of different faiths, right? And I'm
yeah.
glad you brought that up. For those of you who have been listening for a while, you know that I did a week-long fast in the desert at altitude. I just felt like I wanted to do a fast in Arizona and Utah. Don't ask me why. Just like there was something in my body that was just like, do this fast. And to this day, the photos from that fast, my skin had this shine. My eyes had this glow. My smile was extra big. I just felt very clear and tuned in and had some really beautiful personal experiences, which I'll take with me for the rest of my life. It was a really beautiful gift. And so that was a long fast. And so a lot of times we hear like intermittent fasting, but in parasitology, they actually discuss this, like doing a 3-day fast, not to mention the human growth hormone surge that you get. So there's lots of benefits to fasting. So it's essentially this concept, the way I look at it, of getting so empty so that you can get filled up with all the right stuff.
Hmm.
So this purification approach, this lens of looking at how can we be our most beautiful, high vibe, radiant, peaceful version as men and women, really stems from being as pure as possible. So thrilled that you mentioned the fasting.
Yeah.
You also mentioned honoring your word. And earlier this year, I had a really interesting experience with someone who was the nice person, but they weren't necessarily the kind person. And what happens with that is they try and people please. They try and appease everybody, right? To be the good person. And what I saw from that was actually kind of like a bit of a lack of integrity, a lack of good boundaries, a lack of good judgment. So being the nice person, unfortunately, allowed so much chaos into their lives. And it was kind of sad to see, but it wasn't my place to like point it out, if you will, but it was something I observed. So this concept of integrity to actually glow brighter. So honoring your word. And I did a landmark forum, a 3-day personal development seminar recently. And what they call these things, these, those nagging things in the back of your mind that you need to take care of, right? Kind of like chip away at your level of like peace and calm. It's like, oh, I gotta get that done. Oh, I gotta get that done. Or like, oh, that's kind of looming in the background. In the forum, the word that they call that are rackets. So consider what the rackets are in your life, and are you honoring your word? And are you showing up with integrity? Right? You're not just putting up this facade or this mask of, looking good, but you're actually acting in integrity. And sometimes that might make you look a little bit bad to somebody's perspective, that like, oh, kind of ruffles the feathers. Oh, that's a boundary that, maybe they don't like. That's kind of their thing. But I'd love for you to expand on how honoring our word can help us embody this more beautiful, energetic, radiant version of ourselves as men and women.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to explain this. I think it's spiritual in a sense. When you don't follow through on your word, you don't trust yourself. When you don't trust yourself and you kind of know in the back that and in the back of your mind, you kind of know I'm probably not going to do that, or I'm probably not going to, there's just no confidence, because if you don't trust yourself, you're not confident. And then that lack of confidence and that distrust leaks into everything that you do. So when you meet somebody, and I've literally experienced this myself, I would meet people for like a business transaction or a program I was trying to promote, and they would just kind of fall away and disappear. And obviously leads do that in sales all the time, but it was weird. It was like an excessive amount of people. And it was really a time in my life where I was not confident. I don't think I was a man of my word. And the more I became consistent and trustworthy, and my integrity grew. I mean, I do sales now. I do, like, my show rate, I think currently is upwards of 80 or 90%. Why is that? There's a lot of reasons. Good scripting, good this, good that, good follow-up. But I think a big part of it too is my integrity is showing through everything I do. Somebody can go look at my LinkedIn, they can go look at my videos, they can see my description, they can watch me, they can talk to me. Everything is synchronous. Everything, if you see me on LinkedIn, then you talk to me on Zoom, I'm the same person. Rachel, when you and I finally get to meet in person, you're going to be, I literally had somebody recently literally tell me, "Oh, you're exactly the same in person." I'm like, I hope so. I mean, hopefully I'm more attractive in person. Hey, but but other than that, yeah, of course I'm the same person. What do you mean? Right? And I think that takes a lot of work, funny enough, to become this really unified person in all areas of your life. If you see me at church, you see me at the grocery store, you see me at mini putt. Actually, I'll be furious at mini putt. I'll have a very competitive edge and I'll be probably angry. But that's why I don't go mini putt anymore. But yeah, it leaks into everything. So now if you want to start dating, you want to start doing whatever, people are just going to have that weird gut feeling like, I don't know, there's something about this guy. There's something about this girl. It just feels off. And I really think, not only now, obviously, when people start trusting you and you're not trustworthy, you're going to actually do things to show them that you're not trustworthy. But before you even get that chance to show them that you suck, I'm just joking. But before you even get that chance to be untrustworthy, in person, I really do think you're going to repel a lot of people before you even get there, because there's just this negative energy radiating from you that stems from not trusting yourself, not being confident, and everything you do has a weird, uncomfortable energy. So,
Oh, so well said. Being able to trust yourself, right? And you got to trust your gut. And hey, guess what can live in your gut? Parasites.
parasites!
I mean, I'm being funny about this, but like it would be funny for me to not mention this, right? And a lot of times we get those little niggles in our gut, in our heart, before our mind can put logical reasoning to something. We always feel. And being able to trust yourself and trust your instincts and trust your intuition is like a superpower. So that and there can, when you embody all these different things, you alluded to it, you become like a magnet for beautiful, like-minded people who also operate from integrity, who have shared values, but you can, still be a magnet for people that don't have the same shared values. And it's actually recommended to engage with people that have different perspectives for you. It's actually really good for your brain. And having those shared values of health, I mean, learning to get along with everybody is a skill set, and seeing how you can be of service.
Yeah.
But trusting the gut is everything. And for a while there, I really struggled with this. I really struggled with, am I making the right decisions? Can I trust myself? And I really grappled with this. This was like a dark night of the soul situation that I went through. It's like, I read that situation wrong, or I read that individual wrong. But really, if I go back to the initial point of that, I had a feeling. I had a little niggle, but I didn't listen to it. And so there was wasted time and energy of going through the motions, getting to know someone, being in a certain situation. And, time is the one commodity we don't get back. And so I think if we're going to really maximize our time here with how well we care for ourselves, we show up to our loved ones, we can be present, we can be our best versions, which is going to be our own unique winning formula. And my unique winning formula, which I'm happy to share here, which actually someone said to me, Rachel, you're like a Renaissance woman. I was like, well, what the heck does that mean? Does that mean I'm like an Annie Oakley situation?
Maybe you wear fancy skirts. Maybe that's what it is.
But we all have this like winning formula. And for me, it's being like this very feminine woman, being very strong, but also really loving to do quite masculine tomboy activities. And that, has all been part of my identity to essentially like help me survive. Like if we really go deep into this stuff. So there's certain things that, it's not just honoring your word, but it's staying true to who you are and what makes you you, and honoring that, not putting on a mask to like look good and appease to other people. So what would you say your winning formula is, Joshua?
To ask me the hardest question in the world, my winning formula. My goodness gracious. Well, I mean, my banner on a lot of social media, I think it still is. Yeah, it still is. I think most of my stuff is 1% better every day. So, I'm very much of the mindset incremental, small, consistent improvements over time lead to dramatic shifts and large wins. But if you just, what's the phrase? Like we overestimate what we can do in a day, but we underestimate what we can do in a year or in a lifetime. And so, in other words, success does not come quick. It does not come easy. And even if something does come quick, it's probably going to go just as quick, or it has the ability to leave just as quick. So just my winning formula is a very unhelpful answer in the sense that it's just small, better, incremental improvements every day. If you have 10 meetings today, then at the end of the day, think, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? How can I be better? And then tomorrow on your 10 more sales meetings, don't make the same mistake that you made on your worst 2 meetings yesterday. And you still might have some sucky meetings, and you probably will, but don't make that same old mistake. And then you'll make another mistake that's new. And then so now the next day, try not to make that mistake, or don't say that part of the verbiage. And then eventually, I don't know why I'm using this example, but we're here now, so I'm going to keep going. When it comes to sales scripts and talking and communication, after you do 500 meetings, you're going to have iterated so many times where now it's going to get to a point where you have this perfect script. And then it's going to become so natural, it doesn't sound like a script. And then you're going to be so natural with it that you're just going to be able to flow. And the best meetings I've ever done, actually, I think some of the best ones I've ever done were with another guy who was like high level sales entrepreneur. And he stopped and he said, you just asked me like 13 questions without asking me a single question. We were just talking, and yet I know you have the information you need. And I said, yeah, I do. Because it became so natural that I was able to just really connect with this guy, but actually get all the information I needed. So all that being a long-winded way to say slow, steady progress over years, and being patient enough to see that fruition, or see that come to fruition. And by the way, I'm talking to myself right now because I need to hear this every day because I get very impatient myself. So, yeah.
Well, being 1% better, I would say that's more your tagline. My tagline is, if I can do it, you can do it too. That's why I have so much fun with playing with this embodiment stuff. And one of the things that I've learned with just like being my best version of myself, and obviously doing all the biohacking, the nutrition, the skincare, looking after myself, having fun. I'm playing my guitars again, which is really sweet. A Six Blade Knife by Dire Straits is my favorite song right now, by the way. We underestimate what we can do and how powerful we really are. And sometimes we just have to like remember that, right? So if those of you listening, and for you, Joshua, as well, I want to ask you this. If you could think of a time in your life where you were like, wow, I felt like Superman, or wow, I overcame that and didn't, collapse into a puddle of woe is me.
For me, definitely it would be the number one thing that pops into my mind is when I finished basic training in the military. Is the hardest thing I had done to date. It was the most totally out of the ordinary, different environment, like literally living in jail for a few months. Like you'll be arrested if you leave the property. Like so, kind of like jail. Yeah, I remember just being at graduation and just doing and I was actually the one, I forget what the name is of this person, but we would have our platoon all, dressed up, and you would have one guy that was like the flag carrier that would kind of represent your platoon with all the other platoons that were graduating. And then we had one person who would call out the chant. I wrote the chant and I was the caller. So I would, I think it was our platoon was called Alpha 11. So I would yell out Alpha 11, and then everyone else would say the next part, and then I would call out something, and then they would say the next part. So I just remember like I said it with so much joy and passion, and my parents were in the audience, and I was like, this is the last time I have to say this freaking crap. Like I finally can graduate and be done with this. And it was a few months. It was a culmination, like way better than elementary school graduation, high school graduation, university graduation, anything. That was the most. It was a pinnacle moment in my life for sure.
That's a pretty badass one.
It's okay, I guess.
That's a good one. Yeah, as you were saying that, it's like, yeah, that's a tough situation that you overcame and you stuck it through. And, there's some probably serious psychological maybe stuff you had to unpack a little bit later from that. But you saw that you could do something difficult.
Yeah. I've definitely never ran so much in my life. I should say a jaunt. It was like a jog run, with weight on your back.
Camper.
Yeah. Maybe not a sprint.
Fair enough. I do love sprinting. And it's fun for me. Like after the 2 car crashes, like I felt broken. If I look at pictures of myself from 2 years ago, I was so skinny. I think I probably weighed like 124 pounds at one point.
Wow.
And now I'm almost 150. Like that's how much muscle I put on.
Pure muscle.
Pure muscle.
Rachel Varga coming in at 150.
I still have this feminine form, but it was like I had to make this decision that I'm going to be weak and frail and probably break my hip when I'm like 75 if I don't put more muscle on, and I had to.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, not like your basic training, but like you're pushing yourself to that edge in somewhat of a controlled, like safe way. And then you overcome that edge, like learning a new skill, right? Doing a new exercise, lifting a heavier weight, you know, landing a sweet deal, right? That you make money from. And you're like, yeah, I did that. Like these things build our confidence. And to truly embody the masculine and feminine, we have to be confident as
Yeah.
we go through life. So these like really tough times are what build our confidence, and especially in men. Tough times for women are like, it's a little different, right? One of the things for me is being a nurse, being at the bedside when someone's passing away, engaging with the family in that dynamic, walking in a room and basically having to adapt myself to blend in, to be a chameleon. To also, I don't think I've ever even said this on the show. I worked for 6 months as my last nursing practicum in a maximum security prison.
Oh, wow.
Bet
Nice.
you didn't see that one coming. So this is like very intimidating as like a young woman to be in a maximum security prison. And I was like, yeah, I can adapt into interesting situations. And so that's actually been part of my winning formula, right? If I'm in different circles and it's like a hospital gala fundraiser, or getting dressed up, or hiking in the woods and wearing my Timberlands and like a lumberjack jacket and a ball cap, right? Having this ability to not be moldable, but be adaptable and resilient. When we overcome things, hard things like a parent passing or something happening to a loved one, like it's hard. You got to show up for yourself and also show up for others, but you have to show up for yourself first and be resilient, which is why I'm a huge fan of adaptogens and, you know, basically looking at yourself to, as your mentality and your tagline states, be 1% better all the time. So that when we have our foundations of health and wellness, body, mind, spirit, energy, and we're doing all these things, especially in regards to biohacking and personal development and traveling and having these new experiences, they all stack up. So those 1% over time could be on your foundation baseline, give you that, 20 to 30% edge. So that when something challenging happens, not a roadblock, but an obstacle, right? I don't believe we're ever given more than we can handle. When we overcome that, it's going to tank that, 20 to 30% dialing in surplus, but you have that buffer. It's like keeping that toxic bucket as empty as possible. So if you go in somewhere and there's mold, it doesn't tip over and then you get a skin rash, your body can handle it. Your psyche can handle it. Your faith is strong enough to withstand challenges. But you should always, question stuff, which is why your book is so cool. So that's actually been part of my winning formula, is being an adaptable chameleon. You can put me in any situation, I can get along with pretty much anybody. We can always find some type of common ground. And, being warm. So how we do this, how we embody this is actually, for me, a form of play. It's playing, not trying, but playing with incorporating different things in my life, whether it's taking a specific supplement, whether it's adaptogens, whether it's a parasite cleanse, whether it's sauning, whether it's standing on my vibe plate or my PEMF mat, like all these different things. They should help you feel better, sleep better, and be stronger and more mobile. There's always going to be fluff, there's always going to be gimmicks, but to have clarity and just like that nudge, that like gut nudge of, oh, I've been hearing about this. There's some research to back it up. I want to give it a go. I want to play with this. And then you play with it, and then you see how it does give you that 1% here, 1% here, 1% here. And then you get your winning formula. So that's like biohacking winning formula, but it's also like your identity winning formula.
Yeah. Yeah. It was something you said before too about, well, you've been talking about the whole time being adaptable. I think even on the masculine side, like, you're talking about wearing your boots and then being a girly girl well, I think some guys, they want that out of their woman, but then they're not willing to give it back. Like, not, I don't know anybody who just always wants a, I'm a man. Like, you don't want that 24/7. Now, listen, if you're in a dark alley late at night coming home from a restaurant, okay, bring out a little bit of that. You want kind of the primal, the primal man to be a protector in that situation. But then you talked about, a death in the family or something happening. Well, that's when you want the comforter. That's when you want the peace giver. When you're cuddling in bed or you're doing something, maybe you want a little, the guys like a little head scratch,
Yeah, you want to
and a
do the
little,
world food sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm speaking for myself here, but I don't know any guy that wouldn't like a little scalp massage. I mess up my hair now. But my point is for men as well to be adaptable and be able to tap into, I don't know if you want to call it the feminine, but be able to tap into your more sensitive and just like vulnerable side. I think guys are very scared to be vulnerable. Um, and I mean, for good reason, obviously, but I think when you have the right person or the right people, it doesn't even have to be romantic. It could be with family, friends. But when you can find people that you allow yourself to be vulnerable with, I think that's when you can really, um, yeah, just tap into another side of your masculinity that isn't always so aggressive. And I think the guys that just have constant road rage 24/7, meaning
Or
like,
like super red pilled,
sure, yeah, it's like
you
they're
know?
hyper. I don't even want to call it hyper masculine because that almost sounds like it's and I don't want to, I hate the term toxic masculinity,
I was
but
just
it's,
gonna say,
yeah,
right?
but in this
Like,
case maybe that is the right phrase for it, because it's like, bro, take a chill pill, like just enjoy Titanic with your girlfriend, like relax, cry a little bit watching Airbud 3, you know what I mean? It's, if hey, you put on some veterans coming home to their kids and surprising them at their school basketball game videos, I'm weeping. I'm a little baby. So, anyways, that hit me when you said earlier for women to be adaptable, but like guys, like it's okay. You can cry watching Avengers Endgame for the sixth time.
well, I mean, yes. And I actually had to be that way. I had to be the tomboy because when I was about 5 or 6, like, I've done some work on this stuff, everybody. When I was about 5 or 6, I vividly remember playing house, in the dirt with some of my friends. We were sweeping the dirt with, like, I don't know, a cedar branch or something, playing house. And the girls were like, "You're my best friend. No, you're my best friend." I'm like, this is dumb. I'm gonna go hang out with boys. And so that's how I survived, because like I just didn't like that way of being. So that's, anyways, where the tomboy stuff came to be. Um,
Yeah.
Balancing the yin and yang. Okay, we think of traditional Chinese medicine. You brought up ancient texts, right? Spiritual texts that have been around for thousands of years. It's in traditional Chinese medicine, balancing the yin and the yang. In Ayurvedic medicine, it's the doshas, right? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of those in any capacity. However, what I will say for the guys is you get all big and strong, you get, you do the curls for the girls, all that. But you go and do some yoga or stretching, and it's like, where's that shoulder mobility? Where's that fluidity in the movement? Guys are stiff. So a way that actually men can balance the masculine and feminine, or think of it like the yin and the yang, if you don't want to be like, oh, I don't want to just stretch because that's feminine. Balancing the yin and the yang is doing some mobility exercises. Ladies, we got to do this too, right? A lot of ladies have super tight hips. A lot of guys have really tight shoulders. A lot of us carry so much tension in our upper body, and focusing on your posture, being present with your breath, focusing on your movement and your fluidity. That's how I like to play with the masculine side of things, of getting stronger. And then the feminine strength is something really fun. but balancing it with the mobility is something that both men and women need to do more with. And there's a lot of research in the longevity space that how doing certain movements, like focusing on your grip strength, doing a dead hang for a minute and a half, has a direct correlation to our longevity.
I'm looking for my grip trainer. There we go.
Get a grip. I mean, for this stuff, for like feeling great, looking great, slowing aging, there's research to back up a lot of different things. But when
Yeah.
it comes to embodying the masculine and the feminine, which I have a lot of fun talking to you about this, Joshua, because you're not out in left field. And I said this before we were recording, like you're grounded and you're fun. You guys should have heard us before we were recording. And this is the fun part, right? When the masculine and feminine come together, you're kind of on the same vibe train. You're just jiving, and you have shared values. Like this is how we get into that fun, playful state where there's that exchange. And so if you're kind of stuck in a rut, which can happen as we go through shifts in life, the hormones are kind of all over the place, right? We're in that high cortisol state, stressed out, like gosh, if I had to do basic training, I'd probably get like a million gray hairs from it.
That's why I have these few here.
Oh yeah, you got some of the beard. I got a couple. um, but it's the playfulness with the masculine and feminine, especially when it's pure, is really fun, right? Think of a time when like you've had a like purely platonic exchange with the woman in your life. You're like, oh, that was kind of fun. It's like you kind of fed off them and they kind of fed off you. I mean, we kind of have that, which is, but can you think of like another example?
Um, Trying to think of. I met a friend recently, actually. I would say she's in a relationship, so there's, not to cross boundaries. But she was actually, it's funny. She was referred. Hopefully, she listens to this. Um, she was. It's okay. I met a guy at a restaurant while I was out with another friend, and him and I clicked, and we're like, "Yo, let's keep in touch." Like he was starting some. I think he wants to start a podcast. And I was like, "Bro, let's connect. Like I'll give you some pointers on what it's like to start a podcast." Blah 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 blah. And then the next day, I wake up and I have like a few people added me on Instagram. I'm like, "Who are these people?" And I see that they added me because he told them, "Yo, you got to connect with this guy." And so one of these girls is my new friend, and yeah, we have that very kind of sibling energy immediately. And I find for me, the reason I hesitated to answer is because I was thinking like, okay, I don't want to give an example of someone that there was romantic tension, or maybe, you got that friend in high school. Oh, you made out one time, but now we're still friends. But it's like, yeah, but you kind of crossed that line. So I'm just thinking who is, purely platonic. And I think for me, the ones that become purely platonic, it's like, yeah, they're very much sibling energy. I find it hard to have just friends that are girls and hang out with them a lot. I have a lot of friends that are I have a lot of friends that I don't see often. I don't really ever hang out with them. But those that I would spend time with, especially one on one, that would have to be, yeah, kind of like brotherly, sisterly type of energy. And I think a lot of that it's not even blood. I think you can find those people for sure, um, without having to be related. I don't know if I answered your question. I totally forgot what you asked.
No, I mean, it's your own experience. It's like what came up for you. So
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
totally okay.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
there's a line for sure. I think most male female friendships will not last for many reasons. Maybe you and I are best buds and now you get in a relationship and he's just not okay with you getting coffee with me, which, you know what? Fair enough. I think there's a line where, okay, well, if you want to hang out with me, then maybe the three of us go get coffee, or maybe we go on a double date, or, if it's a business relationship, maybe we can get coffee, but we're not going to get dinner, or I'm not going to come over. Like so you do have to find the fine lines, even if someone is uh, sibling energy. I think there has to be respect for the person you're in a relationship with. So that's where I think it can get a little bit messy, because then some people have no boundaries, and some people that are, I would say, maybe more secular and don't maybe care about the boundaries of relationships as much as maybe religious folk, sometimes they're a little too loose. And, you meet those people and they're like, I have all guy friends and we hang out all the time and play Call of Duty and hang out on the couch late at night. I'm like, that's getting a bit sus.
Are we Gen Zs or millennials?
Trying. I'm Gen
I got some
Zillennials.
high white socks on, by the way. I ditched the
Wow.
ankle socks. I know.
Wow. I don't. What am I wearing? I have maroon. I have high top maroon socks.
I love that you brought this up because when it comes to like embodying that masculine and feminine energy, um, there's so much beauty to both sides. And I know for me, when I feel that respect of that kind of like sister vibe, that's what I respond to. It shows respect. And for those of you ladies tuning in, how you show up, you're either going to magnetize that kind of vibe, like the respectful vibe, or the not respectful vibe. So notice, especially if you are single, like I am, notice what you are, you too, Joshua, notice what you are magnetizing. And then play with some of the different things that I talk about here on the show, and particularly in the membership. But play with it and then see how people respond to you. See who kind of like hovers and orbits. Tune into what people kind of are even saying and talking about around you, like within earshot. Play with these things, with how you are showing up in the world. All these little 1% tweaks here and there. You should be, I think if you're doing it in a really healthy, grounded way, you are going to be magnetizing really beautiful girlfriends and also just like, fun male counterparts in like a platonic group setting. Like I cannot have guy friends to save my life. It's just not happening. And the funny, I'm so glad that you mentioned this because in my research on relationships,
Personal research, lived experience.
totally, reading different books, right? Like Attached, looking at the research done by the Gottmans. What's interesting here, so I think this is a personal choice, is relationship experts there's two camps, and it's kind of like a 50-50 split. The guy friends, the girlfriends in a committed relationship or not, and keeping it like group, and all of those things to limit if someone's going to cheat, they're going to cheat. But it just reduces the likelihood of like deeper emotional connection that you should be getting for your partner. And I'm a firm believer in that. I'm not a believer of opposite sex friends in a committed relationship. Okay, so when we're talking about honoring our word, that's a boundary, right? What makes you feel safe? At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right? So what makes you feel safe? What makes you feel like you're in survival mode? And when you're safe, you're going to have more fun and be able to more freely express yourself, play. You're going to actually have more of that like spark and vitality in your step and the way that you look when you do feel safe. So I would say that that's going to be a unique situation for everybody, for not only the individual, but also their partner, and to have that conversation. I really got to hand it to some of my training friends, though. I wouldn't be in the incredible shape that I am without sometimes hearing, I think you can lift that. You're stronger than you think. Here's a spot. So that like
Yeah, buddy.
yeah, totally. I mean, that's what I've been playing with. Like clearly,
Ronnie Coleman. Anybody?
I'm a total gym rat, like 6 times a week. Let's be honest here.
Come
But
on, give us
that's how I
some
feel.
flex
No,
for us.
no, no. That's too masculine.
Okay, okay.
I'll do like a backward bend at a handstand instead, or do my sprints.
That works. Yeah.
But you got the mic now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's individual. I've been in relationships where, one girl said, I I don't even want you to look at other girls longer than 3 seconds. You know what I mean? She didn't actually say that, but that was the vibe. It was like anyone that I gave any little bit of attention to, it was like that was a problem. Versus my last relationship, which for me, I think was the healthiest, especially at the time, because I was doing so many business meetings and I'd always meet up for coffee with people to do like initial consultation, men, women, whatever. And I needed someone who like just understood that I could have a business relationship and also like let's say you and I let's say you're in town, right, or I'm in town. If I was in a relationship with my ex, for example, and you came to town, she would be totally fine with you and I grabbing coffee and connecting because we've been podcast guesting on each other's stuff. We've been talking online, like we have this friendship. But then the other girlfriend I'm referring to would not be okay with that, and she'd want to join or just not want me to meet you at all. And so I think for someone like myself, for example, I'm literally, my podcast is called The Connector. Like that's kind of what I do. I'm always networking, connecting. So if I'm with somebody who limits and restricts me just based on gender, that might be a problem. But at the same time, I'm not getting late night dinners at fancy restaurants with women alone. Like that wouldn't make sense either. Because then that crosses the boundary of professionalism into personal. So yeah, I really think it's subjective to the relationship, to the person. Where did you meet that person? How are they treating you? What's your level of business with them, right? Or I don't know. But I think overall it would be healthy if I was with somebody right now and you came to town. My first thought would just be, well, let's the three of us get some food and let's hang out. And
That would be
oh my
mine too.
gosh,
You're like, yeah, bring her.
right.
Absolutely.
Like
Let's all hang
Rachel, let's
out.
take you to the CN Tower if you haven't been to Toronto. But like we will take you. My girlfriend or eventually, God willing, my wife is a unit with me, right? So even if a family member from Italy came to town, my first inclination for me at least, when I'm with somebody is let me and my girlfriend, us as a unit, let us take you out. So it's not even you're my female friend and she's my girlfriend. It's kind of like just the mindset of when I'm with somebody, I want to do things with them. Like I want to. So if I have a cousin from out of town or a friend from out of town, that's an excuse for me to go do all the touristy things that I don't normally do. And who would I rather do all these fun touristy things with? My freaking girlfriend. So, you know what I mean? So for me, it's just a matter of like, I just want to spend time with that person when I'm with them. That's why I'm with them. So if I don't invite them to come hang out with my friends or whatever, then maybe that's a deeper issue. I don't know.
I have a little story to share here. So, once as a birthday present for someone I was with, they desperately needed a new sound system in their Mustang. So I actually
Desperately needed.
No, desperately. I got them a new deck. And so here I am in the parques when I had my own little sweet bachelorette pad at a golf course. Here I am like pulling out this old deck and putting in a new one, like wiring it, stuff like that. Like I'm more hands-on.
Wow.
So I get to play with like these masculine things. And it's like, yeah, I can do that, right? It's good for my brain. I've always been that way. My dad's also a carpenter, so he showed me the ropes for
Your dad,
things
like
that.
Jesus, like your father?
My dad is the best. I said to him, Dad, I'm so grateful for you. You've been such a great dad, super fun, always been there. He's like, you know what? I owe it to your mom. She stuck with me, and they just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary.
Oh, I love
They're so
that.
fun. It's like I'm complimenting my dad, and then my dad compliments my mom. Super sweet, really beautiful teamwork dynamic.
Yeah.
So, anyways, my old neighbor at that place, she was SF, pretty cool, would kind of go away on tours, and he had this cute little pit bull that was a rescue dog. One of my girlfriends was over, and she had her dog. We're taking him for a walk, and then here's this like cute black pit bull mutt with one ear up, one ear down, like
Aw.
not a very threatening looking pit bull.
Right,
Um,
right.
so I was like, oh, that is so cute, like little pit bull party. And when they're trained well, they can actually be really lovely dogs. And that's one of the few male friendships that actually truly has been platonic. And it's funny you mention this because he randomly called me up the other day. He's like, hey, how you doing? Haven't heard from you. Just bought a house with my girlfriend. Would love to connect. I'm like, yeah, let's all like go for lunch, the three of us. So that's like me being respectful and honoring her
Right.
as well to like keep it in that group setting.
Yeah. Well, I think also like a determining factor of me getting over this cough. No, a determining factor of I think the health of your relationship, friendship wise and romantic wise, is if you choose a romantic partner that won't get along with the person you call a friend and a good friend, then something's off. It's like either you chose a bad friend or you chose a bad partner. You know what I mean? Because like if I choose a good friend and then my right partner, you would think logically they would probably also get along because I now attract similar type of people. So if they're butting heads, then one of them I think is probably wrong for you. And figuring that out is a different story altogether, I guess.
Yeah. And there's also this other dynamic at play because we're on the bandwagon of the masculine, feminine, embodying this stuff, navigating life with a little bit more intelligence and intention on faith and health and honoring your word, being your best, purest version. I met a girlfriend of someone, and I just did not have a good feeling. It was like that visceral feeling, and I communicated that. And that's actually happened on more than one occasion. So where do I want to go with that? I think every situation is individual, and it's wise to be able to feel your gut response when you meet
Yeah.
somebody. Like, even if it's not in that kind of like dating situation, opposite sex friend, but just in life in general, when you're
Yeah.
making a decision to like do something or go somewhere, like, when you have that gut feeling that something bad's going to happen and then something bad happens,
Yeah.
that's different than feeling like, oh, something bad is for sure going to happen. That's like a sign of depression. But when we get that intuition, which I think we can tune into that quite a bit more from that more intuitive space. And I would also say that some of us are more intuitive than others, right? We all have different like gifts and superpowers
Right.
and things like that. But always listening.
Yeah. I will say there's one to wrap this topic up. There's one I'm thinking about this in real time as we're talking about this. So I'm verbal processing here, but I think if you're not entrepreneurial, if you're not building something, you have much less reason to have friends of the opposite sex if you're in a relationship. So, for example, and I don't mean this in a condescending way, if you're just a 9 to 5 type of person, go home, like if you're not, because here's the thing, I think having opposite sex friends also requires a lot of emotional maturity and intelligence, and that often comes through a lot of personal growth and development and building, which often only entrepreneurial type of people do actively, because once you start doing development, you realize you want better than what's around you and you start growing. And so my point is, unless you're on a growth journey, and that's a subjective term, but if you're not on a growth journey and you're just kind of living life, then what reason do you have to have a female friend outside of your girlfriend or your wife? Whereas you and I are moving together in this journey adjacently, and we're building our own things, but also kind of building together. So then if you come to town and I have a relationship, it's like there's a reason you and I should meet, because we're connecting and we're building something. But if I'm just living my life playing video games and then I meet you online, which we did, that gets a little, is this making sense? Like I said, I'm verbal processing, but I think you have less reason to start making a bunch of female friends or friends of the opposite sex if you're not doing something that requires networking, requires growth. So I don't know. I
Well, full
just,
transparency, I actually found your content. The
did
algorithm
you?
gods. Yeah, the algorithm gods
No.
presented your video
Well,
talking about the
it was just
male
so good.
struggle. And so many men are really grappling with this. It's like, how do you be
Mm,
men? Well, you got to have those masculine circles around you.
mm,
You got to have a safe space to open up. Otherwise, these like super red pill, crews out there that are preaching hypergamy from the mountaintops, right? You don't want to offload on your woman. You need to have
sure.
your male tribe that you're going to sit around the campfire looking at the fire, maybe stimulating some stem cells. I've seen that in a social media post. I'm not too true.
Same.
But you got to have those male circles. Like, guys got to have those male circles so that you can be
Sure.
vulnerable and open up and talk about the struggles and all that stuff. And then for women, yeah, having those lady circles where we get dressed up, we talk about real life stuff.
Sure.
It goes both ways.
Wait, I can't dress up in my guy circles?
Well, I mean, we're talking like when I get dressed up with my girlfriends, we're in dresses, we're in heels, we do our hair all cute.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. What's the problem with that? I'm
It's
kidding. I'm joking. That's a different conversation. That's for the behind the wall, behind the paywall, Patreon.
Well, this has been fun having you back on the show. So that's originally, so everybody tuning in, that's how I found Joshua. He was really speaking to the male audience, talking about how important it is to have these male circles. And so I had reached out to you and be like, I like how you're presenting this. It's in a very, it's in a way that makes sense. It's in a way that's relatable. And to, get your perspective out there and your work to the 25% of listeners who are guys too. Because I get the request, do some content for guys. And I think it's just really cool for women to learn about the masculine perspective as well, because we don't have that. And then same with the men, to have a little bit more understanding on the feminine perspective. It's like the more we learn about one another, the more that we can kind of like find some cool things to talk about and go deep. It's like one of the words that I used with you, what's coming up for you, right? So that's how in a relationship you can have more of those emotional connections, because at the end of the day, the more radiant, high vibe, healthy, powerful, having fun, 1% better every day, we're going to be better partners. We're going to be more effective in what we're here to do in the world, with living our purpose, with remembering what is your special formula. So I want to say a big thank you to you, Joshua, for being back on the School of Radiance podcast. I've, kind of went a little out there, but this is a great place to kind of explore these nuances to being radiant beyond skincare, beyond rejuvenation, beyond makeup and the hairstyle and the outfit and the heels and the beard, right? Literally just being us and being human, and how we can beautifully express ourselves to show up as great partners, mothers, fathers, and shine our light, right? Be more radiant in the process. So Joshua, where can people find you and learn more about you and get a copy of your book?
Easiest place has all my socials, my book, my new school community that just started, my podcast, just joshuapalassis.com. Joshua spelled normal, Palassis, Palassis. If you forget, it's just palass.com, joshuapalassis.com. It's essentially a link tree that has everything you need. So
Perfect.
that's the best. Thank you for having me on, by the way. Always love talking to you.
I really enjoy our conversations. So stay high vibe, everybody. Stay radiant. If we can, Joshua and I can be that 1% better every day, so can you. So some food for thought that maybe, just maybe, you'll even have some of these conversations with your closest loved ones and learn something new about yourself and also them. This process of personal self-discovery is a cool one, so that you can learn how to work best with your machinery and your operating systems to be more effective and shine your light in the world. To learn more, head on over to theschoolofradiance.com, where you can book your one-on-ones, join my seasonal tutorials, join the membership. Everything is in the show notes of today's episode. You can even book a 15-minute call with me, and I can help you out with where you are now with your skin and rejuvenation goals and where you want to be. And of course, let's not forget about the parasite cleanse. The link is in the description, as well as Organifi, spelled with an i.com/Varga. Use promo code Varga and save 20%. Clear that gut so that you can think more clearly and feel more like yourself again.